So speaking of good stuff going on, we always try to profile a VW tech company. Over, if you're not aware of it, we've got a business incubator, have several locations, but one's right across the street. How many of you know where the subway is? The subway food, yeah, well, that's the building where we have our cyber security companies located. And Samir, our presenter for today, and he's corrected me, I always like to call him Samir Ahirrao because I think he's a hero because he's an entrepreneur and he has started a business. But that's not how you pronounce his name. It is Samir Ahirrao.
Yeah, thank you.
Stick with it, hero, it's better. It really is. But as you can see here, you might have seen the flyer already. He's founder and CEO of Art and Privacy, all about data privacy and security, which is a big issue, as you know, today. Lots of certifications in the field, lots of memberships and awards, co-chairs, and these different kind of security organizations, but I also love the fact that you've been recognized for your volunteer efforts. And I think that's very cool. Because you're an entrepreneur and you're running a business, you're busy, but you still take time to volunteer. So thank you for that, and thank you for volunteering to be with us today. So I'm anxious to hear your full story as well, because entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. So I know you're headed in one direction and you end up somewhere else, so why don't you tell us about that journey? Let's welcome him.
The first mistake, right? It always happens, and it also happens in entrepreneurship. Things happen when you don't want them, right?
Absolutely.
So exactly when you start, so I have to put that to the Sally. Hey, good afternoon. Thanks for making here. I think we have a good crowd here, right? In terms of not all the full chairs, but you know what's the beauty of closed group is you get to answer all the questions, have a more intimate conversation in terms of there is not a entrepreneurship is all about and how my experience has been. And actually, we have a privacy entrepreneur I mentored in one of the programs. So how about that's really thanks for coming. And I'm pretty sure, hopefully, you will learn a few more things which we did go through. So my name is Samir Ahirrao. I've been working in the cyber security field since 1999. It's been a lot, right? Lost a lot of hair. So, been in Maryland for almost last 2 decades, right? Originally from India, worked there, graduated there, and started way early in the cybersecurity when there was no word called cybersecurity. But I'll go through my profile and what entrepreneurship is all about and what my experience is and what you can probably learn from them. But Bill Gates actually said once, right, what's worse, the beauty or rather a very different thing about entrepreneurship is it worked for him, right? Always formula is different. So what worked for me or not worked for me, it may not, nobody knows, and that's all about uncertainty. And that's what I was overall thinking that, hey, when Vivian, so on that note, actually let me thank Vivian, Kevin and Alex Brown Center for this wonderful. I love to talk with students, mentor them. We hired so far 25 interns, so thanks for the opportunity. I'm sure we'll come up with some more entrepreneurs through that, the whole series we cover and the initiative. So real quick, since we are a small group here, right, so let's see, right, how we can, so the beauty of closed group is we can tune our talk, or rather the kind of thought sharing will be very close. So you want to say your, like, what's your major, what's your interest, like really quick, we have like probably how many, 6-7 people. Just tell me so I can be actually more specific or be more helpful in terms of that. So a small your name introduction, what's your major and what's your interest and what brings you here. A lot of want to be entrepreneurs, what I see, and of course, thanks. So one first suggestion, right? As an entrepreneur, you have to always talk loud. Because if you are not heard, nobody's going to care about you, right? So whenever you talk close to the mic, whatever doesn't matter, but number one is we'll go through what are the characteristics of entrepreneurship. But let's talk about myself a little bit, right? What kind of makes me a little bit eligible talking about the data privacy business or whatever. So my name is Samir Ahirrao again. I'm run a company called Art and Privacy. So I don't know how you are actually watching the whole privacy and would love to hear your perspective at some point as from the millennial perspective, right? How do you with all this social media and TikTok and how the user privacy is actually exploited without us knowing, and we are victim of kind of social experiment. So there is one consumer side. I work on the business side of it. So what we do is we are AI-based platform to discover, identify, minimize, and securely delete the personal data. So our goal is basically to enable enterprises to do the privacy regulatory, which are actually becoming mandatory. Maryland is actually coming up with the new education privacy law in 24, close to home. But California, Connecticut, Virginia, and 3 more states, Utah, Colorado, they have comprehensive protection just like GDPR, if you have heard of European part of it. Here in America, we don't care as much about privacy so far. There is no federal regulation, but we need to. There is a lot of awareness, and we are seeing more and more incidents. So we play in that field. My background is all data security. I worked in cybersecurity, starting as an engineer, pen tester, application security, or whatnot, whatever you call. I have worked in it. Prior to starting Ardent, actually, I used to be an architect at Lockheed Martin for a $500 million contract vehicle with Health Department of HHS/CMS. So did a lot of work, implementation products. That's kind of gave me a entry into what are the basically missing problems and what I can cover. Also work with Deloitte and Symantec in the product space. You may know that from the antivirus and those kind of things. If you haven't heard of this organization, ISC2, they are the largest organization for cybersecurity certification like CISSP. So I also write their exams, curriculum setup or something. I used to go a lot, but don't get much time. I used to fly me to Florida, beautiful place, in Clearwater, where we used to basically design those questions and stuff. ISACA also, it's a system for auditors, like system information systems auditor organization or consortium. Volunteer for that or rather act as a subject matter expert. And IAPT is International Association for Privacy Professionals. That also I act as a subject matter expert and also a knowledge chair for Baltimore chapter. These are my kids. This was actually in the Key West. I didn't get time to get the recent photo, but I like them small. You know, one of my friends told me that what's the best thing with the kids? Don't let them grow up, and they are. So they are my son Prithvi and my daughter Ira. They are now high school and
interns. Is that what it is? They're interns.
Middle schooler. My future interns, right? I did give them offer like summer job that if you do a Python coding, then I'll pay you like $12 an hour. They didn't take up on that. Maybe too early. My other stuff with the kind of connection with UMBC through the MTech program, and thank you UMBC. That's the whole reason I'm actually in the BWK CyberAct. So far we actually work with 25 plus interns: law, business school, computer science, data science, and Alex or another actually through your program, another wonderful intern showed up. So we did work with 25, and I love to work with the new ideas. And so that's about me. So I was thinking, right, what is entrepreneurship? And Vivian said that we want to talk about entrepreneurship, right? And I've been going through this journey, and which is at all not easy, right? If you are thinking, watching actually those fundraising news, right? Somebody raised 25 million, somebody raised $1 billion. Those stories look very good, right, on paper, but what we don't see is there is a 10-year worth of effort, 20 years work. It takes a time to actually build from like small concept to the whole thing, and there are a lot of compromises, whether it's your lifestyle, your mind. So I was thinking about that, right? What should I basically correlate that with? And I said, where am I, right? Where I immigrated all the way from India. So it's very close to the analogy of basically foundation story of America. And somebody got on the ship, right? Whatever you call, I'm not as familiar with American history, but they were trying to find India, right? A new territory where they want to settle. So they got on a boat, right? And they did not even know, right, that time the earth was round or versus where you going. So you get on that boat, you don't know what's your future. That's exactly the entrepreneurship. So when you actually go and pass that, some days are good, some days are different. But I think it's all about uncertainty. So that's kind of a, I thought that's the best like kind of correlation I could make because of course we are basically a country of innovation, right? Land of opportunity, what we call, and it is. There is no doubt about that. So I will go through like 5 characteristics what you need to start a business, right? So we are all on the actually our senses, right? What it takes to that, because sometimes it's good to have enthusiasm, but at the same time it's good to know, right? What it takes to build a business. And this is, I started this after 2 decades in my cybersecurity business, right? Or rather working somewhere, got an idea, pursued it. So there is a lot of effort. So I always basically recommend that look into it, and we'll go through those kind of characteristics. So, so somebody got on a boat, right? And then they did not know how that's gonna go. You got basically through a rough patch. And the end of story is like you try to find India and you found America. Still a very good outcome, and it happens a lot of times in entrepreneurship. You try to build something, right? You pivot. There are like complete pivots, right? So the thing is, what you make as a fast to market and a revenue, basically building business. That's what basically people care about, or that makes the successful business. So let's start with what are the 5 characteristics, right? So, and I'm gonna compare to that same story. The number 1 is you need a viable idea, right? And I say idea, and I'll relate with my idea. What actually kind of you should have kind of something which needs to be changed, which does not work in existing system. So I'll take my example. What wasn't working. So I've been working in the data security for a long time, and if you see the way security or cyber security works, it's all perception based. So what that means is you are sitting here, you locked your car, you locked your home, right? Now how secure that lock is really doesn't matter. It's perception that I have that lock, right? That's why you buy locks, right? That lock can be broken in half an hour, right? You can buy a good lock versus the difficult, or rather easy or difficult to lock. So I learned that over the period of time that is basic, but that does not mean you are getting the toughest or the best security for your enterprise, right? So we are talking, whenever we talk about cybersecurity, what do we think about is basically the very first thing is, oh, do we have antivirus, right? And then probably we talk about firewall if you're talking about enterprise. So mainly the network security. So one problem I was struggling with, I used to basically onboard around 110 applications in the program where I was. Whenever I asked, right, those stakeholders that what are you trying to secure? So security was not at all aligned to your business mission. So what kind of data you have which you want to protect? And I will always get cricket because I'll be talking to, first of all, wrong audience. It's just IT custodians, right? Somebody like techie guy, but they don't know what's the value, business value of that particular data. So the idea I came along that, hey, this is not gonna work, because eventually when you see data breaches happen, people are not worried about what application you use, or they don't want to hack. There are like vulnerable applications. What they are worried about is data, right? They always get away with some kind of intellectual property data, personal data, citizens data, national security data or something. So it has to be data centric, right? That's how I came up with my idea overall. And whether it's basically then you need to think about whether it's viable to commercialize, because eventually you're gonna sell that idea. Idea can be plenty, right? And you can patent ideas, right? Like Apple has done, like one with the iPad with the square. But more than idea, the viability of that idea is important, and you want to know that you have enough knowledge about that idea to make it viable. So I'll give one example. The Canva founder, right, 22-year-old founder, she came up, I think Melanie, or so she had an idea, right, that and huge idea. I mean, it's not easy, right? What you is competing today is with Microsoft and Google. So a very easy to use or Adobe platform, right? Canva, where you can edit stuff. So she says, so it's a basically browser-based design studio where Adobe used to cost a lot. Average designer has to buy $2,000 subscription or something. But her investor, or rather whoever she pitched to, that investor told her that, hey, go and get your technical co-founder first, and then I'll fund your idea, right? So whenever you have an idea, make sure you are also kind of come up with the idea, which you can make it happen, right? I may have a best idea, right? I want to basically do something like Web 3.0, right? Whole decentralized currency, cryptocurrency are there, but I want to basically give that same to the enterprise, but I need a crypto expert for that, right? So always you match up. So when you have an idea, first of all, number one, think about the commercial viability of that idea, whether people will really pay for it. And I'm talking to a lot of basically entrepreneurs within the hive and stuff. The best way to do that is basically talk with your end customer. Just think about it, and you don't need a product to build or something like that. You just talk to them. It's about restaurants, it's about gym, it's about enterprises. So just do a little survey for kind of. So that idea has to be viable, right? Now if we compare how the idea overall comes with. So if you compare that to, again, the American story, right? Somebody was not happy with the what situation they were into, right? So whatever existing church or whatever they wanted to get away, discover a new place or something, right? So there has to be some kind of burning issue which you think that this is not kind of working, right? So add-on cost, like for example, what for that Canva founder, $2,000. So it's not basically commodity. Everybody cannot use that. Now you can have how much, like millions of images on that, and you can come up with the presentation in like for $12 a month. You can come in presentation in 20 minutes or so. So she simplified kind of. So it's absolutely important, right, that idea is viable. Otherwise, I mean, every day you have tons of ideas, right? Whether that idea, and there is a buyer for that idea. Other thing is passion, right? And really, I basically took those images. Those presentations are not like they have a ton of content, but I just thought that the visuals are kind of sometimes. So it is really like that, right? Most of the entrepreneurship journey, you're working on an idea for amount of time. Eventually, time is money, right? That time you will be paid, not paid, you know. So there is really a lot of basically you have to have enough passion to pursue. So you really need to be excited about it, right? So yeah, if I want to do for the sake of doing it, or if you think, oh, this is a good idea, right? But you really need to be a mission oriented about that. You have to have a sufficient, or rather more than sufficient, like dying passion to change something. No, this is not good, right? And still, if I take my example, or rather how I pursue it, still I think, right, in terms of the whole work of all the security products I'm seeing in the industry, doesn't make sense. We are spending way too much time on network security. We are not at all basically looking at the data. So if you go to like any organization and ask them, hey, what data are you trying to put? I'm still not here. But changing it? No, right? Still data breaches are continuously happening, right? And this is, I was actually engineer on the job. I used to basically do this each day and all. So I drink that Kool-Aid basically every day, right? And still, so it's difficult to change because people are in status quo. Today, if you see like people have categories of product defined, right? It's very difficult to actually define a new category and basically have the customers convinced that they do really need this, because people find like it's the status quo, oh, I have antivirus, buy another one or change it or something like that. But when you are defining the new category, but all through that years, or rather what you need is you need to be really passionate about your cause. And it has to get you going for that amount of time, right? It should be that kind of serious passion. So just comparing to the American story, they wanted to find a new land, discover a new land. of course, they had a passion to go, right? When 20 people or whatever group of people, right? They just get on, and there is fear of dying, right? Overall, because you don't know what's on the other end of the sea, right? And happens, I mean, they say like 10% of the startups usually thrive and 90% fail. So definitely, if you can learn fast, but all that passion is super important when you actually pursue an idea to basically make it happen or make it viable. Courage. It's important characteristic, right? So you also have to have a courage, right? We started with talking about that idea, right? Going to ton of investors, basically convincing your co-founder, right? Talking to your parent, talking to your spouse, talking to your girlfriend, right? Because eventually, courage is gonna take you the big, and the good example of the courage, I think Steve Jobs actually gave a very good example in one of his article or books, I don't remember. So he, as a high school student, right, he was actually looking for some electronic equipment, right? He wanted to basically build something, maybe whatever he was building, I don't remember exact, but so he actually called the founder of HP, the CEO of HP. And who would believe, right? Today, can you basically think that, hey, I'll call Bill Gates and hey, give me something, right? You gotta have courage, right? So there is never, right? What you can eventually get shut down. Hey, I don't have time. You can't talk to Mr. Gates or whatever. You can't talk to whoever the HP CEO. But he actually got on the call and he gave him initial equipment or something for his whatever project that was going. So you have to have a courage to pursue that. Anything, right? Whether it's basically giving pitches, right? Or basically coding something or going somewhere and started, right? You wanna be heard all the time. So the courage is very important in terms of when you pursue that idea, because it's not easy, right? It's very easy comparatively to make your paycheck, right? Work for someone, right? And have that steady paycheck. But once you actually get, and you actually, so I always actually say, entrepreneurship is the one of the fun, right? When you write paychecks for your employees, but you don't get paid, right? So there are like up and down, right? It's not all like a smooth path. So where you basically make your team, basically pay them. So it takes a lot. So it's a courage in itself. So courage is a very important characteristic as far as one of the traits of entrepreneurship. And it's a long journey, right? The perseverance, you have to push it hard, grind every day, right? And the majority of part, right? So there may be, one is the technical aspect of it, right? You have an idea, you build something, that is one part, right? And the other part is selling. And you see that selling is the toughest part. So if you are a techie founder versus you are a sales founder, both have its own traits, right? If you build a cool tech, but somebody got to buy it, otherwise, and for that you need perseverance, right? So this is all combination of the characteristics, but say you go to particular industry sector, right? In terms of, say for example, you go to e-commerce sector, you talk to 100 people. So in initial part of our thing, so we were talking to some credit unions. So how does that start, right? You are basically doing a product market kind of fit, and earlier talking to some, so just get the like a common database, right? Available database on the internet, call people, hey, how are you? It's not easy, right? You need courage and you need perseverance, because after 100 or 1,000 emails, you don't get a single. So you know what is usual response for those kind of email marketing? How many even you respond or see the emails, right? There is so much stuff there. So there is like a 1 to 2%, right? Usually you get like 3-4%. Only the people read and open your email, and response will be probably your 1 in probably 100 or maybe 1,000. So perseverance is very important, right? So when you go there, then find, okay, then this may not be the business need. for this kind of people, or are we basically the right customer persona, or should we approach someone else? So, and you have to walk through it, right? So you iterate continuously, right? So you build your first version, you basically go with one. So in my case, I would say data-centric security, right? So what I was talking about, I was trying to change the security world. But now if you go to the CISOs, right, every average chief information security you go to, there are like 500 vendors chasing him for security or network security kind of product. It's very difficult. It means the market factors, you cannot change how people think, right? Because everything is not going to be like you say whatever. It may be true, right? Whatever you are saying, but not always that's going to work. So we basically tuned our message to the privacy because compliance was a driving factor, right? So it's still data-centric security and privacy. There is no privacy without security. Right? There can be security without privacy, which is not good. But privacy always exists with security. So we actually put, or rather tuned our value proposition towards privacy because anyway it's gonna do the both. So it took us a year to learn that, right? So maybe a privacy is the good, and we are still going through that journey, right? Some people, customers do call for security, some people do for privacy. But compliance is a driver, right? Eventually, so you don't do something, you don't wear seatbelts if they are not compulsory. In the past, right? Now it became, but it took time, right, to basically get that mentality. And then security products, privacy products, they're all like that, right? People don't do it unless it's really. I mean, if you're buying a new phone, tell me, are you actually buying that for a security? You are actually going to look at what's my user experience, right? What's my price point? So that's not really the first thing which comes to your mind. So I think perseverance is super important because you can go, you try something for 3 months, you try for 6 months, right? Then, but remember, all through that journey, there are like wonderful people, right? Mentors and other people. So, and I mean, place like here or even in general, there are so many resources available. I mean, if you go to the Y Combinator University, the amount of resources, I don't think there's a scarce of resources, more than you can read. I mean, they actually run the completely free entrepreneurship class for 6 months. So you go through value proposition, then there are programs like iCar where you can validate your idea. So, but you have to pursue through it, right? That's absolutely important. Yeah, that's all. These 5 characteristics, you got your venture overall. So, not a long story, but I want this to be more interactive session, right? So, what you guys have basically the doubt in mind in terms of what you trying to pursue, right? So, just to open Q&A and basically pick on the topics and we'll run through that.